We're working. Everything's working. Excellent. All right. Hello and welcome to the Captain's Table. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Berserker01, Batman Shelley, your humble host and space bartender at the AstroPub, and your facilitator tonight on the Captain's Table. Tonight I'm joined by two wonderful content creators who you love, and we'll get introducing them. But before we do, I'm trying to do this more often. If you've been enjoying this sorts of content, and if you do find this content enjoyable, if you're watching this after the fact on YouTube, make sure you hit that like button, make sure you subscribe for more content, and hit the bell icon to know when these are coming out. And of course, join us live on Saturdays at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, for your own chance to hang out with the casts and ask questions, which we'll do after the fact. This is just the discussion podcast section, and the actual kind of full question and answer session will be a separate YouTube video on it, or it will not be a separate YouTube video, but it will be on part of the longer Vod, which this whole thing was live on. So make sure you join us there as well. With that being said, let's get started with our first guest, Nick. Who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen, and where can they find you?
Hey, it's Nick. I make some YouTube videos, TikToks, and you can catch me live on Twitch TV/HeyItsNick, and also now starting to stream on Kick.com as well. Controversial, I know, but
controversial.
Branching out, but I think right now it's a good time to be branching out with what Twitch has been doing. So I've been treading those waters, and yeah, you can catch me out there.
Awesome. And HCVertigo, who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen? Where can they find you?
I'm HCVertigo. I'm a full-time Star Citizen streamer. Well, mostly Star Citizen streamer these days, but I stream other stuff. Mostly on Twitch. I do YouTube videos occasionally. You can find me around at Twitch TV, HCVertigo. You can find me at YouTube, HCVertigo. You can find me on Twitter, HCVertigo. I'm all over the place, HCVertigo.
All over the place, Vertigo. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Sultan of the Sultan King of Stanton.
Sultan King of Salt.
Of Salt of Stanton. The Stanton Sultan King of Salt. There we go. That's how it works. Gotta get that shirt somewhere. The HCVertigo merch. The Sultan of Salt of Stanton. Stanton Sultan of Salt.
Sultan Salt.
Yeah. All right. With that out of the way, let's bring the topic for today. It's going to be obvious if you're watching this on after the fact, especially in the titles and everything, but we're going to talk about Arena Commander. Now, I'm going to have to do a brief overview because, and I say brief, this may be a little bit, because there is a huge amount of stuff that's coming out with Star Citizen with Arena Commander. There's a massive update they're doing for 320. And I'm going to go over just real quick the what's on the release view, so we know the general idea, and also a little bit more about what they talked about. They did in 2 entire ISCs, effectively like a 20 or 30 minute ISC on just the changes to Arena Commander that they did over 2 separate ISCs from this week and last week. So I highly suggest check those out if you haven't, and then come back and watch this later if you need to. But we have where are you? They're completely revamping Arena Commander so that when you log in, Arena Commander and Star Marine are now just Arena Commander. The entire front end is completely replaced with a new front end. All of the racetracks that are on the Verse, so all of the ones that are in Stanton, are now also available in Arena Commander. There's an overhaul of all of the New Horizon speedways, including a brand new map, an additional New Horizon Speedway map. There is a new dogfighting map, which is Jericho Station. There's another dogfighting map, which is Security Post Korea. They've overhauled the Echo 11 Star Marine map to entirely. They have experimental game modes. They have an entire Aeros, like a dogfighting map that's in atmosphere, which just uses the New Horizon Speedway map, and it reuses it as a dogfighting map. Security Post Korea is also going to be in an FPS. And part of those experimental game modes, we've seen pistols only, we've seen effectively the gun game, and we've seen what they call Tank Royale, which is, just a bunch of tanks fighting each other in elimination or in squadron battles. So this is huge overhaul. That doesn't include things like the mute buttons being added and other kind of UI aspects. They've kind of ported the friends list over from the actual PU into Arena Commander, so you can use all of those features as well. It's this huge overhaul of the game. I didn't even mention the Pirate Swarm. They've completely overhauled Pirate Swarm and its ending, plus an endless Vandal Swarm. So there's a huge amount of changes that are coming in 3.20. All of this is going to be coming in 3.20, plus more in the future. So with that being said, I want your initial reactions to this overload, this avalanche of information and changes. Vertigo, I'll start with you since you were the last person to introduce yourself. What's your initial impressions with this?
I'm having a snack, so I had to mute myself.
he had some stomach pains earlier, so he's feeding his stomach. That's
I'm feeding my stomach. Yeah, trying to stew things over. I mean, like I'm excited for like some of the Arena Commander stuff coming up, like new maps, obviously, like really easy to add. Some of the stuff I don't really care for that much, like the Star Marine stuff. Like honestly, there's plenty of other games that do like first-person shooter stuff better. Mm-hmm. And as far as I'm concerned, Star Marine should just be taken off the menu until CIG has something with Star Marine to make it actually better than another product on the market.
Well, I mean, effectively, this is like there's no more Star Marine. Everything is now Arena Commander now. So,
I mean, that's just splitting hairs, Paul.
But you're talking about removing the FPS aspect of Arena Commander.
I'm talking about just removing Star Marine to being able to. You can't play Star Marine anymore. That's what I'm basically saying, because there's nothing really going on in Star Marine that's worth the damn compared to any other product on the market. It's just basically a crappier Call of Duty knockoff. Okay. I used to play Star Marine a lot, but honestly, like almost no one plays Star Marine these days. But Arena Commander and racing, those actually have like merit, because who's doing a ship racing game? Who's doing Starfighter dogfighting game anymore these days? So but even then, Arena Commander, almost nobody plays Arena Commander. And one of the big problems with nobody playing Arena Commander is that CIG was not developing anything for it. There was like a space around 3.0 to like 3.5 where the community had just pretty much given up. And that's one of the reasons why there's almost nobody in there any time, because even the racing scene was hideous. There was like bugs with like the leaderboards and racing where you could actually start the race before your timer started. So you basically have like an extra lap, just a free lap that didn't count towards your final time. And if you didn't get that bug, like you'd have like a whole lap that count against you. And I remember talking to some of the racing community, and they were just like kind of really pissed off by this, because leaderboards was a huge deal in the racing community. Otherwise, you had to have like a third-party leaderboard where people had like stopwatches and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So it's nice to see that CIG is actually giving love to a game mode that some people like. And if CIG does a good job here and they actually fix up some of these bugs, and CIG actually continues to develop Arena Commander and actually stay on top of these issues, then we'll probably see the player base start to come back to it. Otherwise, Arena Commander, as far as I'm concerned, is still dead to me.
Okay. So even with like all these changes in these updates, you're still like, no, I'm not interested. You're not impressed with it.
I'm interested in seeing what the changes are, and I'm seeing if they fix it. But if CIG doesn't put doesn't have like long-term plans to actually support Arena Commander, like it's going to be a dead game mode like it is right now.
Okay. Nick, your same thoughts. Your initial impressions from all this information.
My initial impressions were I was super hyped when they announced that the Tonk Royale, and they specifically called it Tonk Royale in the thing. And I'm just like, yes, finally ground vehicles in Arena Commander. We can finally just actually have a tank battle.
The first ground vehicle was added in 3.0 back in 2017, start of 2018. So about 5 years now. We've been kind of waiting for this in Arena Commander.
And it's just like, it's one of those things where it's just like, finally it's in. I'm just excited to actually even if it's only going to be the first initial like week, people go in and try it, I'm going to have fun with that week and just have crazy tank battles. And I know HCVertigo isn't excited for the Star Marine features in it, but I'm personally excited for the Star Marine changes, because they did say that they were fixing a lot of bugs and issues, and I'm interested to see how well they actually were able to address some of the issues with Star Marine. with the new UI and bug fixes and all that stuff and optimizations. I'm more excited for the experimental modes. That's the one thing that really kind of caught my curiosity with the potential, with what they can do. I'm excited that they're going to be having like, pistols and gun game come in for Star Marine to actually give it kind of like more of a gamey feel. I do agree with HCVertigo though that they really need to work on the actual player experience in FPS. I think there's a lot of things lacking that Star Citizen does with the FPS that they could add on and improve on. But I'm hoping that with the new Arena Commander and experimental modes for balancing and player feedback, that we can actually get that to developers who are working on it currently. At least that's the way they pitched it. So I'm hoping that when we do see new experimental modes come in, we get like a spectrum feed with that, where we can actually give our feedback on the FPS experience specifically. So I'm hopeful for that, and I'm excited to see more experimental game modes come on, like a hardcore PvP, a one life search and destroy type thing. That's one thing I would really most likely like to see in experimental modes come in, is like a hardcore one life, CSGO style PvP experience in both Arena Commander and Star Marine. That's one thing I think the competitive community would really like to see, as well as myself.
Okay. I'll start with you in this next question then, Nick. Is this just straight up, do you think this is a mistake that CIG is putting a team of, 8 or 9 people on Arena Commander? We know that they've been working since like last February, not this previous February, like February 2021, on a lot of these updates and changes. Do you think this is a waste of resources, or do you think this is a valuable, like, can this add to the experience of Star Citizen?
I don't think it's a waste of resources, but I can see if it could be wasted. I think if they use this team specifically, like say the actor feature team has a new feature they want to implement into the PU, right? Or they just want to balance things out. With the experimental modes, with the way they described it, they should be able to set up like scenarios for us players to actually get in and get rapid reiterations and get reps in to test certain specific features. So I think if it's actually used to its potential, it could be good. But if it's not used to that potential, then I do feel that it could be wasted.
Okay, so it depends on how going forward the experimental modes are.
Mm-hmm. I really feel that way. Yeah.
Vertigo, do you think this is a waste of resources compared to like Star Citizen overall, or do you think this is a good use of kind of future resources?
I think it's kind of a waste of resources. I think Arena Commander, Star Marine, the resources should have gone to developing the persistent universe, but CIG seems to think there is some merit or some value in having these modes. And like from the outside looking, I gave CIG money to develop the persistent universe and Squadron 42. Mm-hmm. And if CIG wants to test things, that's great. Give us things to test. Right now, the meta is very flat in Arena Commander. It's just light fighters. There is no meta. Every weapon pretty much works like every other weapon. Or the AI doesn't work very well in Vandal Swarm or Pirate Swarm. Racing has a lot of bugs with it, issues with it. But with the next updates, we're getting more racing stuff, and hopefully it works. But I'd rather see more progress in the persistent universe. I'd rather see more progress with Squadron 42. But, the one thing I would love to see, like testing in Arena Commander, was this new master modes. Master modes. I would love to see that come to Arena Commander, so that players could actually give feedback to CIG. Let's like give it like a Gladius or something.
So you think it's a waste of resources unless they used it to test some of those features that are coming forward?
Yeah. If CIG wanted to test balance changes, like actually make Arena Commander a bespoke mode that's separate from the persistent universe, so they can kind of mess with stuff balance wise, and then put those balance changes in, because they were having problems getting people to play the 318 PTU. Mm-hmm. Like they were begging people to log in. In fact, they started bribing people after the fact with like free ships. Like you submitted the most bug reports on Spectrum, you get a 400 I don't remember if anybody saw that.
Yeah, I did.
Did anyone else see that?
They've done it before. This isn't the first time they've done that, but this is the first time it was this extensive in the past.
Yeah. So if you're going to test stuff, like give us if you want to test stuff, test on a live server. You want to test it in front of everybody, put it into Arena Commander on a live server, give us master mode. You'll get tons of feedback. You'll get more feedback than you ever wanted. I guarantee you. Okay. But of course, CIG's like, oh, we got to wait for the UI changes. Oh, we got to wait for art to get done with some stuff. And, apparently we can't just use placeholder stuff anymore in Star Marine. It's got to look pretty.
I know with game development, there's a lot of test maps created just to test features specifically, so you don't have the other features that are currently being worked on interrupting anything. Like it's all kind of cut off. And I feel like, especially with the PTU, if they use experimental modes in the PTU to do some really wild testing, it could really like spice up the PTU and as well really focus in on what exactly the devs want to test on. Because there's a lot of times where like you go into the PU, right? In a PTU, and you go into the PU and their testing instructions are kind of like, just go here, test these things. And, you kind of got to deal with the PU in the state it is on PTU. And if they at least made it in an Arena Commander, it's just like, they could just set up test maps so quickly. Just test this out, do it a few times. And it's like, just the time commitment from players and anyone is so much lower to test things.
That's kind of like one of my problems with the PTU. Like when 318 released, that kind of broke me because 318 was like 3 months, Paul. It was over 100 days.
It was longer than that. Yeah, it's probably about 3 months. Yeah, it's because it's like in March, I think is when it released, and it first released in December. So yeah, it was like 3 months.
And it was they were playtesting Persist Entity streaming on a 318 PTU, and it was in PTU for so long. I got bored. I got tired with it because every time you'd log in, there'd be another patch that day, which would reset your account, so you lose all your progress. There was no progression, and CIG didn't give you all the ships in the game. You were locked to whatever you had in your account, and so you really couldn't grind for anything. Maybe you had enough cash to buy like some upgrades for ships you had, and if you wanted to make any progress, your best bet was to log on a weekend where CIG wasn't releasing an update, but sometimes they would release an update on the weekend, which would reset your progress. So it was very annoying that way, and sometimes the stuff they want you to test is out in the middle of nowhere, or you have to set up like a schedule with other players because we're a multiplayer game. So you have to have other players nearby to test out some of the stuff. And if CIG just had like a smaller, more contained map in Arena Commander just to kind of throw people into, like you wouldn't have to deal with all the persistent universe. And that's the one good thing about Arena Commander is that you could skip a lot of the immersive sim elements, waking up in a bed, commuting to the spaceport at Lorville,
eating and
pulling
drinking
your ship out. Yeah. Nice little shortcut there. But overall, I did not give Chris Roberts money to develop Arena Commander into anything. Like, I did not give a shit about Theaters of War when they showed it off because I did not give Chris Roberts money to make a Battlefield in space. I gave him to make Freelancer. Right? So when they showed off Theaters of War, I kind of rolled my eyes like, great, more feature creep. So I see Arena Commander as kind of like the unwanted stepchild in this marriage. Chris Roberts wants to make it a thing, but I don't want it to be a thing, so I kind of like keep it at like arm's reach. I kind of try to ignore it because I never expect anything out of it.
What would make you change your opinion on it in the general? Like, what would CIG need to do to Arena Commander to make you more positive to it? Would it just have to be the whole using it for these testing focuses, or is there anything else?
I mean, if CIG wants to make me more, if CIG wants to sweeten up Arena Commander, it needs to have a legit purpose or be something that doesn't already exist. Like I said, Star Marine specifically is already done better by other products on the market. Hell, even Battlefield 2042 or 2041. I can't remember I think it's 2042.
2042, I think, yeah.
Yeah, 2042.
Yeah. It's the current one on the market. Just Call of Duty. Call of Duty has better team deathmatch, better objective gameplay. There's already a bunch of or Counter-Strike. If you want to do like a 6v6 game, Valorant out there as well. Apex Legend if you want to have a large open map. Battlefield if you want to have actual vehicles. Hell, there's all a bunch of... Even people are still playing Battlefield 4 if you want to go back that far back and have like a combined arms experience.
Yeah, that's because EA hasn't made a good Battlefield since then.
That's not untrue. That's not untrue. Battlefield 1 was okay. I'll say I'll give that Battlefield 1 for its novelty for being in World War 1. But
yeah, but there's stuff out there that's already being done better than Star Marine is. So CIG, you'd have to put some development behind it. CIG would have to like show that they're committed through actual updates. Like, I'm not going to take CIG's word that they're committed to update anything anymore when it comes to Arena Commander, because CIG has said a lot of stuff over time. I am that jaded, just pickled, salty backer from 2013 that's seen everything CIG said, and I've watched priorities shift over time. And eventually you get to the point where it's just like, oh, CIG said that? Yeah, well, whenever it happens,
we'll see.
And that's kind of like, we'll see. Very, very, very sarcastic, very bitter. Like, yeah, we'll see about that.
This is the reason why I called him the Sultan of Salt. But it's important to keep these opinions in mind. I know a lot of people, I'm sure people on YouTube are furiously typing in the comments, and please do. If Vertigo is tricking you into commenting, then I've won. You've fallen for my trap.
You've fallen for the content
engagement trap.
But yeah, like there was literally an in-game protest over the lack of development for Arena Commander back in like 3.1.
Yeah,
and CIG poked fun at the community over that. I remember around the verse when Jared did that, they had a little in-universe jab at the people who were protesting Arena Commander not being kept up to date or developed for. And there was tons of bugs. There was pissing people off. So that didn't help me. Like, I remember that. I distinctly remember that. And Star Marine just being... We used to have a player base. We used to set up regular games with the Star Marine, and then that all fell apart after a while because there was just too many bugs. Just too many issues, and there was better products to play. Like, why play Star Marine when you just go play Counter-Strike if you were... what was it? Dirty Bomb was out at the time. And that shut down. So we were talking about that.
Yeah, I remember testing.
But CIG needs to show that they're committed to Arena Commander, that they're doing stuff with it, and then I'll sweeten up on it. If they can just turn the stuff around, like just one patch every 5 years is not enough for me.
Okay. Yeah, I think if CIG does make changes based on feedback from Star Marine, I think they should communicate that so that we can actually feel that what we did in Star Marine or Arena Commander actually had an effect for balance changes in the future.
I'm going to add on to that and say, CIG, you need to do more than just put that in a like a comment on Spectrum or on patch notes, because I'm going to tell you this right now, and this is going to make a lot of other people angry. Star Citizen players don't read. They refuse to read. They're either too busy or a number of different reasons. You need to put it in like an ISC. You need to like, these are the specific features that we got from players that we decided to change in an ISC, because that will make people feel like they've been heard. Because anything other than that, you're not gonna get.
Yeah. I 100% agree with that. That would be great. Because most honestly, I'm someone who doesn't read only because I work a lot, and I'm usually listening to podcasts going over the monthly reports on my drives. So that's how I'm consuming that content.
I have successful content every month because people don't read. I know that. I do a video reading through the entirety of the monthly report every month, and it gets over 1,000 views. And it's always my best content.
The drive home from work, just let's go. There's traffic. It's got an hour drive. Perfect. Paul's monthly report.
It's consistently 40 minutes to an hour or more of reading. So, but let me add an additional to this. Going forward, Nick, I'll start with this with you. What would you like to see added to Arena Commander?
Shion hover tank.
Okay, so more vehicles.
I gotta throw in the Shion hover tank wherever I can, because I want to see that so badly.
Other than pipe dreams, what would you like?
No, I would like to see a hardcore competitive mode with 1 life round based PvP modes. 3v3, 5v5, 10v10 multi crew. Just a 1 life round based competitive mode. I would love to see that come in.
Okay, is that it? Was there nothing else for like say ship based combat or anything else like that?
Master modes. Pretty simple there. We need master modes to come in and see how it feels like before I can give more input on it.
Vertigo, same thoughts with you. What would you like to see going forward for Arena Commander as it's developing?
Like future stuff for Arena Commander. I mean,
Okay.
like, obviously, like, if we were to use Arena Commander for, like, balance testing, we need to have, like, a mixed arm mode. Like, Theaters of War should come. If CIG is committed to, like, actually testing, like, everything together, Theaters of War, something like Theaters of War would make sense.
Someone needs to check the temperature in hell. Oh, my God.
I know, right?
HCVertigo is saying, you just say that?
Like I said, if CIG is serious, about doing balance testing, in Arena Commander, like Star Citizen the Persistent Universe is going to be mixed arms, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to give ground vehicles something against spaceships, because if you have air superiority wins every time. So it's got to be more than just like Star Marine and Battle Royale.
Yeah, it's got to be more than just spaceships and FPS. It's got to be a combination. Is what you're saying.
I mean, they're part of the way there. They got the Nova Tank battles mode, which is just nothing but Nova Tanks. Now they just need to get everything mixed into one pot and see how that plays together. The other problem is that CIG, and this happened to Fortnite.
Yeah.
CIG may end up creating a better game mode than the Persistent Universe and Arena Commander with Theaters of War.
Theaters of War.
It may have more people playing Theaters of War than playing the Persistent Universe.
I don't.
So everybody remembers Fortnite, and then it turned into Fortnite Saves the World, and then just Fortnite was the Battle Royale mode.
But I don't see that being as a bad thing.
I don't see it either as a bad thing, but I also don't think it's as much, because I don't think, at the end of the day, do you think Chris Roberts would see money and then just continually work on the Theaters of War and just abandoned the PU? This is Chris Roberts'
I don't know.
game.
Like, that's a completely different conversation.
Yeah, that's
a Chris Roberts conversation. Not
that's a conversation for another podcast, Paul.
Yes, it is. It's completely different, because that's a strange concept. It's like this is just personally, I don't see the hyper fixated Chris doing that when his obsession with immersion and world building.
Yeah, it's not a Chris Roberts game, but if people play it, people play it. The other problem, I want to respond to Nick, like actually having a one life game, Star Marine game mode like Counter-Strike. We actually need a player base. Like the more modes you add, and this is another problem I have with the updates coming to Star Marine and Arena Commander, where they have like the new racing modes, the new maps, the new experimental modes, where it's like they have the gun game where you start with like a gun, then you change to different guns as you get kills, and you have like just the pistol mode, and then you have the Nova Tank mode. The more games you add to the more modes you add to your game, the more divided your community becomes, the more dilute your community becomes between all those game modes. And I've seen other games have problems with this, where they have just dozens of game modes, and certain modes have no players. You may want to play them, but because there is absolutely no player base in that mode, you cannot launch those modes because there's nobody playing them. And even if like Nick, you may want that mode, but if you and 5 other people are the only people that play that mode, and it takes at least 6 people to start the match, you may never get a match started.
I understand, but I think that game mode can also be applied to the ships and every game mode, not just Star Marine. Yeah,
like sometimes I want to play Vandal Swarm, and nobody's trying to play Vandal Swarm when I log in. So it's just like, okay, all right, I guess I'll go back to the Persistent Universe.
So you think it's either solo or not at all?
Yeah. So you either play solo or not at all. Yeah.
So what you're saying is that because you're spoiled for choice. Sometimes you just spread the community out into multiple different things that are too.
Yeah. Well, the community usually picks. This is one of the reasons why I don't like CIG putting a lot of experimental modes in there. We used to have Capture the Sphere mode in Arena Commander.
Yeah, I remember that.
Back when we just had spaceships before Star Marine was a thing. You'd have to fly around. You'd have like a goal on each side of the map for the. It was like a battle royale. It was a squadron battle where you had one team versus another team, and each side of the map had a goal and a ball in it. You'd fly through the goal, the enemy team's goal. You pick up the ball and you attach yourself to your ship, and you fly through your goal, and then you score a point. That mode went away because almost nobody was playing it.
Yeah, I remember that. It kind of dropped. So it's an interesting question though as well. Now let's. I was trying hard to tackle that one because I want to ask this question as well. Would you be okay with CIG limiting the number of modes, or maybe having it so that you know, like say Halo had done this in the past, and I think other games have done this in the past.
I think Battlefield does it currently too, where they have a certain flavor of the week that comes up in rotation, and you can create a custom server and create that mode again if you wanted to. Mm-hmm. But the official servers, you'll have like 1 week to play this one special mode that the developers created, and then it rotates out, and maybe it'll come back.
Yeah.
So
or having a hopper where you click match play and it just drops you into a randomized mode of whatever you're playing. Sometimes it'll be a Star Marine map, sometimes it'll be an Arena Commander map, and you just kind of play. It drops you from game to game to game to game. You don't have a choice on the map.
I would love to see something like you click a quick play button, and then just whatever is queued up is you get dropped into. So you could select. Can I say just how much I hate the UI for the new Arena
one?
Commander?
Okay.
It's this gigantic wall of like fat icons, and it looks like a mobile app, and I hate it. I hate how UI developers love it. Mm-hmm. And it's just, you can't have like drop down menus or sliders anymore, or buttons you click on to toggle on and off. You have to have this big fuck off wall that takes up your entire goddamn monitor with cool little decals that like little screenshots, little desktop wallpapers that are like 480 by like 320 icons that you click on that have a word on it. I hate it. Don't like it. So I don't I don't know what you could do better, CIG, but that is not what I like.
You get it.
And as I know, for someone who's like an artist or something, they hate hearing that. I don't know what I like, but I hate that.
You're screaming at CIG to get off your grass.
The only thing
These darn kids.
The one thing I'm excited for when it comes to that new UI is the fact that it's no longer a Flash-based UI system.
Yes, me too. I'm glad that it's this new building block stuff so they can iterate on it.
We've seen how quickly they iterate on the building block stuff in the past. Mm-hmm. Like entire screens have changed over within 1 or 2
But it's this
patches,
it's this 3x3 grid of every mode on there in Arena Commander and Star Marine. It's just like you're mixing the FPS modes in with the spaceship modes and the racing modes. And as a user, how do you know what the hell is in there unless you look really hard at all the icons and you read the stuff?
I do agree with that point. It's hard to distinguish what's an Arena Commander and what's an FPS game mode with the UI icons. And I think if there was a drop-down menu and a more conventional PC,
you have a choice of like ship, ground vehicle, racing. Like you can have like a little drop-down menu. What do you want to play? And then you select what you want to play. Do you want to play on foot? Do you want to play vehicle? Do you want to play ship? You select that, you click Find Match, and then the timer goes up, and you can start inviting people into your matchmaker, into your couch area. I like to go back to the idea of like Halo 2, where they had the couch co-op or couch multiplayer, where you invited people into your party, and that was your couch that people were sitting on with you. And they would go from mode to mode to mode with you. When you finished a mode, you load into another mode with the same people.
They kind of have the start of that with this new one, because that's one of the things, the new couch mode where you can like invite people in the party and you have VoIP in the party.
Yeah, the friends list actually works in Arena Commander now, which is, I'm looking forward to that, because now you can just invite people into your friend list. And because before you have people in your party on the main menu, but that did nothing for Arena Commander. If you had a party started and you went to Arena Commander, you had to re-invite everybody into Arena Commander to start the match with those people. So I'm looking forward to more stuff. VoIP being able to work, being able to mute people, being able to like do more stuff, like right-click on people's names and mute them. Like it's a simple thing, but there's some people you don't want to listen to.
Can I have that in the verse, CIG? Can I have that in the game?
Exactly. Like, just have this in the verse. If there's one thing that needs to come from an Arena Commander to the PU immediately, it's the mute button.
The mute
That's
and
probably
those are the two.
That's probably the Twitch streamer in me talking, but being able to mute people would be a big deal for guys like me and Paul.
I don't think it's just Twitch. I mean, there's a lot of Twitch streamers who've brought this up. A lot of content creators have brought this up in the past. But like, I think the average person just, there's that person in chat who just won't shut up there's a reason why the second I log in, I hit F12 immediately to turn off the chat, because I just don't want the roulette.
You don't want to see what they say sometimes.
I'm playing Russian roulette with content. Like, there could be some harmless stuff, or it could be just straight up like the most foulest stuff you've ever heard in the history of mankind.
For where you know that person's going to get banned on Spectrum, and you know that person's going to get you banned on Twitch because for what they said. Yeah. It's just like
I haven't had to report too many people over the years for me playing Star Citizen, but sometimes you'll see somebody post something in the global chat, and it's just like, I literally reach over on my stream deck and I change scenes, then I hit print screen, and then I go to customer support to submit a ticket to get that person banned.
Yeah.
There's been just I can count it on one hand, the number of times I've had to do that while I was live on Twitch. It's not very often, but it has been there. And then basically I have to turn the chat off, hit F12, and then I can't use chat while I'm on that server ever again because of the risk.
It's a problem that CIG needs to address in some way, shape, or form. They've refused to. The fact that they had the mute button in Arena Commander is probably, I'm going to say, outside of maybe experimental modes and kind of like them actually using Arena Commander for its original purpose, I'd say the mute button is probably the biggest news out of Arena Commander, just because it implies that we may be able to get that in Star Citizen, and it's just like, oh, CIG's finally moderating our ability to see people for, oof. All right, so let's talk a little bit more. Let's kind of wrap this up with, do you think, and I'll start with you on this one, Nick, on this one, because I know Vertigo's thought is, do you think that they will continue to support Arena Commander and expand its options? With things like as we talked about with the UI, maybe like changing the UI up. Do you think we're going to start seeing actual changes to Arena Commander beyond 320? Or is this another one of those CIGs, we released a new thing and now we're just going to abandon it for another 3 years or so?
I mean, because the fact that it's using building blocks and they're going to be continuously working on building blocks and all that UI stuff and all these other gameplay stuff to come in online afterwards, I think it's fair to say that they will still keep on working on it, especially when they dedicated a team to that specifically. So I think that they will definitely be continuing to work on it. It's just, what is the limitations that what they're able to achieve with that small team?
Okay. Vertigo, same thoughts to you. Do you think this is is this a Star Marine issue? Like, remember when they released Star Marine and they just abandoned it for up till recently, or Arena Commander?
Oh man. The problem is that CIG's got a lot of irons in the fire. I mean, they got the Persistent Universe, Squadron 42. They have Arena Commander, which is like Star Marine, the Swarm modes, the PvP modes, the racing modes, the free flight modes. And then you have like the website as well. And then you have stuff like FOIP and voice over IP, and then you have the database stuff on the back end. So there's a lot of stuff they're doing all at once. And sometimes, you have to prioritize what you're working on. So Star Marine sometimes, Star Marine, Arena Commander, and racing modes, they sometimes fall behind. So I'm hoping with all the tools CIG's created that we'll see a lot more. We'll see maybe one or two people who are able to actually maintain these modes, or it makes it easier for CIG to maintain these modes in the future. And we actually see a resurgence, a renaissance of Arena Commander where people actually go in there and want to play stuff. We see more balanced testing and tuning in there, and a lot more feedback coming from those modes. And like, hey, CIG, this mode is fun. Hey, CIG, this mode could be fun. Maybe if you did this. Hey, CIG mode, this mode is not good. So I'm hoping more for the future. So I want to be positive though.
You're salty, but you want to be. You don't want to be pessimistic.
I don't want to be believe. Saltwater. I want to be a salmon. I want to be a salmon. Where part of my life is salt water, but the other half of my life is fresh water. I want to be swimming up that river to die by having sex.
That's
coming to Star Citizen anytime soon.
That is a metaphor for Star Citizen. There, I'm upset.
I want to be like Leonardo DiCaprio and find some young Amazon to like give me a heart attack in bed, and that's it. That's my life.
You want Star Citizen development needs to be going from saltwater to freshwater, only to die by having sex.
Death by snoo.
Death by snoo.
All right. I wanted to add up a little bit more, but I don't think we have much more. Oh, this is the last. I will say this is the last kind of big thing, because this is a huge deal. Now, it's not the only things that are coming in 320. We know that, for instance, we've got the whole C is coming in 320. They've got new missions. They've got new trespass stuff, and there's a ton of new stuff which is kind of waiting in the wings for approval or final sign off. But with 320 possibly being one of the last patches of the year, because it can drop, for those of you who are new, since Star Citizen or since CIG has been working on CitizenCon, they tend to post their fall patches or quarter 3 patches after CitizenCon when they do live CitizenCons. Recently, we've been spoiled for choice because CIG is like with 317.2 was released in August rather than being released in October. And I think even the patch before that, because they're doing Digital CitizenCon, they could put more effort. But they usually pull people off of the development teams for stuff for CitizenCon. And as a result, you tend to have that delay of about a month or so of content. But that could be changed. We don't know. It's been a long time since this happened. We could be entirely wrong. CIG has not told us when the release date of 320 is being set for, other than Q3. So it could release anytime between August and October.
Well, I don't think it's gonna be that bad because persistent NE streaming was a big disruptive tech, and that obviously took a lot before they could even get it to Evocati, because it was just, even when it got to Evocati, even when it got to the PT, it was still kind of messy. Then it gets to live, it's even messier. But
well, the question,
so they don't have that breaking their backs right now.
The question is more, with this being possibly one of the last patches of the year. It's one of the last 2 patches. We've had 318, which was big and disruptive. 319, which added some cool stuff, but it wasn't really a huge kind of content patch. Do you think it's possible? And I'll start with you, Vertigo, on this one. Do you think it's possible that what we're going to get with 320 is just the whole sea, some missions, and Arena Commander?
320.
That's all that's on the
320 is going to be around
right
CitizenCon Arena Commander. So I would imagine that we're going to get more unannounced ships besides the whole sea.
Besides the whole sea?
Yeah, so we're going to get more there, because usually that third quarter patch, which is kind of like what 320 is, if I'm doing my math correctly, is usually Arena Commander, or not Arena Commander.
CitizenCon.
is usually CitizenCon patch.
Yes.
And usually CIG adds more because of CitizenCon. So do we have hidden game modes? Do we have hidden stuff? I think you look at the release view, and what's on the release view is the stuff that CIG is willing to maybe commit to for 320. If other stuff comes online,
could you add more caveats to that? Willing maybe to commit to?
Well, they're most confident about that stuff. The stuff you actually see on the release view is the stuff they're most confident. And usually the next patch after the one that just released is usually the most accurate. Like when the roadmap in the current graphic form was released, that was usually the rule of thumb that everybody seemed to ignore. Was after this patch releases, everybody, whatever's on the release view for the next patch is usually the most accurate and probably going to make it. Maybe. But there's always a chance of moving stuff around. And I think CIG's kind of tired of the community just whining about stuff getting pushed back. That's why they changed the roadmap. So they're not really looking to upset the community. So they put the stuff on there that's most likely to make it. Okay. So stuff like the whole sea and whatnot like that. So are we going to get more stuff? Yeah, we could probably get more stuff, probably more missions, more modes. But I'm not really, I can't really think of more stuff that CIG could add besides maybe like a UI update for some ships. Some ships may become gold standard, like the Freelancer, that may not make like a special card for. Like you open your Freelancer up and like, my Freelancer is different. There's like components now that I could take out.
Yeah,
and some other stuff. Okay,
so you think we'll get more stuff, but you don't foresee us having like a surprise, salvage is now complete, or like bounty hunting version 2, which has been talked about. Do you foresee anything like that coming in?
I don't. Like, there's nothing stopping CIG from surprising us, but I am one of those cynics that's like, it's hard for me to predict what CIG would surprise us with, because chances are it's probably going to be like, oh, surprise, this patch is a lot smaller than it used to be. That's CIG usually takes stuff from us instead of gives us stuff.
Yep.
Nick, same thoughts, same question to you. Do you think we're going to Is this all we're going to get? Do you think we're going to get more than what we see on the on the roadmap? And if so, like how much more?
I mean, I think we'll see. Next week's Inside Star Citizen is probably going to be the main indicator on if we're going to get more stuff or not. That's going to be really any kind of surprises. But I think I think this will mostly be the biggest thing outside of some quality to life changes. I highly doubt CIG is going to do a surprise like here's EVA 2.0 or here's Parkour 2.0. You know, I think those are going to be more reserved for like CitizenCon or 4.0. I mean, I definitely would not have any hopes of a star map rework yet. I think that would be saved for 4.0 if they were going to do that. I think a lot of those kind of things that they're going to kind of save for 4.0 and not 3.2, 320.
The other 3.2, 320.
The other 3.2.
Yeah.
320.
All right. Okay. That's kind of what I wanted to end it on. That's going to be the end of our discussion section. But we're going to be moving on to the question and answer session. If you're watching this on YouTube after the fact, if this is just like the little clip, or might just like the discussion section, you can come join us. Of course, come join us live. But if you want to watch the full thing, I'll put the link to the VOD right above Nick's head. And if you're listening on the podcast, we'll just be rolling it directly into the question and answer session. So you'll hear me kind of do the outro, and then we'll just be rolling right into that part. So yeah, thank you again for Nick. Make sure you check it out at twitch.tv/HeyItsNick and kick.com/HeyItsNick. I think that's what it is.
Yes.
And then twitch.tv/HCVertigo to check out their content, when they're live. And thank you again for coming on. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.